Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. The webinar will begin in just a moment. While we wait for everybody to connect, where is everybody calling from today? Or joining from, I should say. Not really calling. You have, maybe I should put my chat so I can see your responses. That would be even a better idea.
Hey, Jahad, sunny Vancouver. Look at you.
Oh,
It's like gray and
nice,
cloudy here.
nice. Saskatchewan. What is that? Kingston. Oh my God. Alberta, Richmond, Victoria. Welcome, guys. Welcome. Guys and girls, I should say. Montreal. Kindersley, Saskatchewan. Where is that? How far is that from Regina, James? Oh boy. Okay. Yeah, that's a ride. 4.5 hours. Wow. Oh yeah. Well, I'm not the fast driver. I try to keep to the limits. Oh, really? Okay. That's cool. You're close to the Alberta border. I see. Very cool. Peter, welcome. Okay. What do you think, Sergio? We should get started.
Sure.
All right. So once again, thanks for joining us for our Micro HSOX Technology webinar today. Today, our conversation is going to revolve around the changes that we're seeing in the cybersecurity landscape. My name is Maria Fiore. I'm Director of Operations here at MicroAge, and I'm joined today by Sergio Lima, Director of Customer Success. Welcome, Sergio.
Hello, everyone.
So just a few housekeeping notes, as usual. Those who attend our webinars know this, but so all attendees are muted just to reduce any background noise. We really would like for you to ask questions, so please use the questions and answer section, and we'll be happy to answer the questions. We encourage everyone to interact with us and with the other participants, so don't hesitate to use the chat to share your thoughts throughout the webinar. The webinar is being recorded. The link to the recording will be sent to everyone within the next 24 hours. In the same email, you'll receive the link to download the free ebook that we created. And we really encourage everybody to take advantage of the resources and share the links with colleagues that may benefit from today's information. Lastly, at the end of the webinar, we have a short 3-question survey to gather your feedback. Please take a moment to share your feedback with us, and so that we can improve future webinars. And the last few webinars, including this one, is a direct result of the responses that we received from previous year surveys. So to all those who respond to our surveys, thank you for your feedback. We really appreciate it. So before Sergio begins, I'm going to take a moment to give you an overview of who we are. For those of you who may not know who MicroAge is, we are a Canadian technology service provider with 41 locations across Canada. This year, we're proudly celebrating our 45th anniversary. That's 45 years of expertise in IT services and solutions, and dedicated to supporting our clients. Our belief is that creating strong partnerships with our clients allows us to help you achieve the objectives that you want to achieve. What do we mean by partnerships? We mean understanding your operations, your clients, how your people work, your challenges, opportunities, your success metrics, your future plans. Understanding your organization and your operations helps us recommend and provide the IT services and solutions that helps you get to your definition of success. This is who we are and how we work with our clients. And with that, Sergio, I'm going to pass this to you.
Thank you very much. Hello and welcome, everyone. So today we are going to look at if you're on the market for shopping for some cyber insurance, if you have existing cyber insurance and you're looking to renew and you're looking to maybe compare different insurers and see what the conditions and terms and make sure that there's enough coverage. This is the webinar. Hopefully we can give you some good information on how to be prepared for what's coming with a lot of these cyber insurance. The typical cyber insurer in the past would probably send you some kind of a questionnaire where you would just answer, do you have antivirus solution? Yes, no. Are you backing up your data? Yes, no. What's your frequency? Standard questions to answer yes, no, with maybe a little bit of detail on what type of solution. But now there's a shift, and it's not a simple questionnaire anymore. It's actual proof-based reviews that they're asking for. So in other words, what happens is they'll ask you what kind of endpoint detection and response solution you have on your computers. They will ask you what is the vendor of choice. They will ask you who is monitoring this, and they will require proof with snapshots of the console and the devices that are protected. They'll ask you for things like if you're backing up, what kind of backup solution, how many replications do you have, what's your retention, please provide snapshots and proof, your test results, your backup results. So in other words, it's moving from the simple questionnaire over to something that's you need to provide me with proof in order for me to insure you properly. Or if you don't have it, then guess what? Your premium is probably going to go up until you get these controls in place. So this can help you ask better questions when you're talking to brokers and insurers and IT partners before signing and renewing. Hopefully, it'll give you a little bit more information, so you'll be ready for this. And the goal is to really reduce the surprises, right? Look at some of the gaps. You'll see a lot of things that are common with a lot of these cyber insurers and brokers. They'll ask a lot of the same types of questions, and some of the requirements and controls that you need to put in place are pretty common across the board. So obviously, the goal is to really leave you with a checklist, so for your for ownership, for leadership teams, so you can use it when it comes time to renew or when it comes time to actually get yourself some cyber insurance. Now I will switch to my important disclaimer monotone voice and say that we are not insurers, brokers, lawyers, or claim adjusters. This presentation is for general education only. It is not insurance, legal, financial, regulatory advice. Coverage terms vary by insurer, industry, location, policy wording, endorsements, exclusions, sublimits, and your organization's actual controls. Always review your policy with a qualified insurance broker, legal advisor, and internal leadership before making decisions. Again, the goal is for us to help you prepare, smarter questions with stronger evidence, and hopefully help you make the right decision with your picking the right cyber insurer. Okay, so let's get this started. What a cyber insurance can and cannot do. First of all, a cyber insurance is there as an insurance. It is the insurer that is taking the risk. So obviously, they will require certain things from you to be put in place. They can cover things like incident response, forensic support, the legal support, the recovery costs, maybe your business interruption, ransomware-related expenses, social engineering losses. It depends on the policy wording, but that's pretty much what an insurance does, right? In general, it's not just for cyber insurance. I think all insurance companies pretty much, there's specific coverage that they will give, provided that you meet certain conditions. What they don't do is implement those conditions and controls. You have to have those in place, and they're actually obliging some of their customers to put specific conditions in place, like stronger access controls, making sure your backups are done and tested and segmented away from your existing network, making sure that you have all of your endpoint protected with some kind of next generation antivirus or EDR. Do you have a lot of them now are requiring to implement cybersecurity awareness training with some phishing testing. In some cases, they actually ask for your incident response plan. A vendor risk management. So if you're dealing with customers and vendors and partners, what are you doing on your end to ensure that you're not dealing with partners that are at risk and in turn put you at risk? And then do you have all of this in some kind of documentation that they can review and then assess your score and then eventually give you, what your premium will be. So think of insurance as a risk transfer. They are assuming a risk. So obviously, for them to assume a risk, they need to ensure that certain security controls are there to reduce that risk. So you need both. And the reality is the risk, the security controls are not just specifically for cyber insurance. This is the best practice, really. These are things you should have in place, irrelevant of whether you have cyber insurance or not. And
Yeah,
we'll start off with Yep,
I was just going to say, and we felt it important to say that, to give this particular slide because sometimes, Sergio, you've run into this where the customer says,
yeah,
well, I don't need control X because I have insurance.
correct.
That's like saying it's okay if I have an accident because I have insurance. Like, who
Yeah.
wants to have an accident, right? So,
Yeah, and what we're seeing is a lot of extra conditions, a lot of sublimits that are
yeah,
limiting certain compensation depending on the controls that you have in place. So, yeah, they'll cover you, but up to a certain extent, and sometimes it won't cover you because you were, as per them, it's a negligence. So you'd have to. There's a responsibility on both sides, obviously. So we'll ask the first question
yes.
on who has cyber insurance at the moment. We'll put up a poll.
Yeah.
And while we're waiting, I thought I saw Kerry ask a question. I took back his hand.
Oh.
We'll check in the chat.
Don't think I see it, but if you do have a question, please.
Okay. I don't
Just
see the
gonna,
poll popping up, Maria, but I think you may see it.
I do see it. Yeah, and
Okay.
I will just go back.
I'm not allowed to answer.
I'm. I think you do have. I think you just don't have that particular. Anyway,
Probably.
doesn't matter. We'll
Probably.
figure that out later. It doesn't matter.
Right. Too many windows.
Oh, so Kerry says it's all good. He was just answering the poll.
Okay.
So
Perfect.
that's great. So far we've got 59% that said they have insurance and 40% that said they don't of all the participants. So, I mean, all we can say there is it's probably a good idea to look into cyber insurance.
Yep. Statistically, with my conversations with customers, it's something like 75%, 60 to 75% of our
Oh,
customers
yeah.
have cyber insurance.
So we're getting closer. So people are
Yeah.
answering, and it's about 62-37. So we're
Yeah.
getting closer to that. So great.
The question is whether they have the right one, right?
Well, that's
And
yeah,
if the coverage is adequate.
absolutely. All right.
Good.
Do we
Yep.
do we want to move on?
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So, as I mentioned, it is no longer a simple, document that you need to provide yes, no. Honestly, real world, not what you hope to have in place in the future. But now, yeah, obviously, your cyber insurance are a little bit more demanding on the controls that they want in place. These are six that we'll talk about. It's not only six, there's multiple, there's others, but these are the more popular ones, right? And these are the ones that we've seen where we've had to provide, because we manage our customers' environments, we've had to provide this proof, snapshots, documentation, process. How is your MSP managing this? So the first thing that comes up is the MFA everywhere, right? Are all your users connecting to your systems, your environment? Are they using MFA across the board? Specifically, whether they're connecting VPN into your network or they're using, pure cloud services and Microsoft 365, let's say your tenant. Do all your users have MFA enforced? And it's not, yes, I have MFA enforced. It's you will need to provide them with a list that is exportable from if, let's say, in the case of Microsoft, you can export that and see which users do not have MFA. So yeah, you might have 95% of your users with MFA, but there's that 5% of a couple of users for some reason don't have it enforced. That has to be looked at and corrected. You may have service accounts and stuff like that where the MFA was deemed not important or difficult to implement because it may cause problems within your systems. There are ways around it to make sure that it's enforced, but what they want is proof that within, let's say, Active Directory, Azure, Entra ID, that you have a list of users with their MFA activated. In terms of backup resiliency, it's no longer are you backing up your data? It is now are you backing up your data? How much data are you backing up? What's the frequency of your backup? What is the retention? So how many restore points do you have? Is it immutable or is it stored air gapped somewhere else outside of your network? And very important, one, have you been checking them? And two, have you tested them? So they're expecting results. So they're actually expecting, somebody or an entity to have run these tests, get the results, and have some kind of a report that says, here, this is the test result from my restoring of certain files and folders and systems. So they need proof of that. Moving on to endpoint protection. We are not now talking EDR, endpoint detection and response. We are no longer talking the traditional antivirus. An EDR works more on how a device should be working, and when an EDR detects abnormal behavior, such as files, a lot of multiple files being encrypted at the same time, or exfiltrated, or changed, etc., an EDR will flag that, protect it, isolate the device, alert certain people who's watching the console. Is anybody reacting to it? Are we connecting to it? What's the next steps? So they need proof of that EDR solution and who is monitoring that solution, snapshots across the board. I see a lot of questions on the incident response. So they're actually asking for, in the past, they used to ask, do you have an incident response plan? And everyone would say yes, because the incident response plan was, well, I call my boss or I call the owner and then they call the insurance. But now they need an actual document that says whose responsibility is it, at what level, and who's your insurer, who's your legal, who is your MSP. Who are the right people that need to be involved if an incident were to happen. They need something documented as well. On your patch, yep.
They go as far as asking for, do you do tabletop exercises and test your incident response plan?
Yes.
And if you you do, then sometimes they ask for the notes, like what did you change, what went well, what didn't go well.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, patch management is the same thing as any of the other ones. They want to know what systems are being used to patch your devices. They a lot of times ask for the versions of what patches were applied and what patches are still left to be applied. The category of patches as well, I've seen, like security critical versus feature updates and roll-ups. They want to understand, which of the patches. Again, it's not a yes and no, like an MFA. Yes, I have MFA, but there's 3 users that are not. Same thing for the patching. Yes, you're patching, but can you show me proof that all the machines are being patched and what type of patch is being applied? And then on the email security and training side, what have you put in place for your phishing control? So do you have anti-spam in place? Is there an entity monitoring that? Are you phishing your employees on a regular basis? Are you training them for awareness to make sure that they're not intentionally or unintentionally clicking on certain things that they shouldn't, right? So train your employees, they become your first line of defense. Obviously, they don't click on some of those malicious emails, which in turn create that incident, which in turn involves your cyber insurance. And what's the reporting process around all of that, your verification steps. And now they're starting to ask also, they're actually doing DMARC checkups on your domain. So without being technical, the DMARC, DKIM, SPF records all across the DNS world in internet, they just want to make sure that your domain is legit and validated and it is not a spoofing domain. So they actually check with tools to make sure that you are properly configured. And if you're not, it's pretty straightforward to configure them. And then you can show them the proof that your DMARC setup is good. So, one missing control can weaken your posture, irrelevant of cyber insurance. Just one missing control can weaken your posture. So, and because of that, it could possibly change the premium, maybe not have a cyber insurer want to move with you because they feel that it's too much of a risk. So you kind of end up limiting the choices you have with your cyber insurers if you don't have at least these 6 options available. So we'll finish this slide with another question on how many security controls do you currently have documented and tested of these 6?
So while everybody's responding to that, Sergio, Peter had a question that says, is there a difference for nonprofit versus profit businesses in terms of cyber insurance? And,
wow,
I don't know, do you have any experience with that?
I wouldn't, I'm not aware of any of our nonprofit that had some kind of advantage to cyber insurance.
Or, but
honestly,
do they have?
cyber.
Do they have? Like the
They have. We have.
nonprofits?
Yes. Yeah. We have companies that are nonprofit that have cyber insurance. Yes. There's no. It's simple. A nonprofit, if they want to buy Microsoft licenses, they have access to the nonprofit pricing. In some cases, they have access to nonprofit services, solutions, reduced rate. I'm not aware of any reduced rates that come from the cyber insurance side, you are essentially a risk identical to any other business in terms of nonprofit, really. If you don't have these controls in place, for them, it's a risk, just like any other company.
Yeah, nonprofits tend to have a lot of data and personally identifiable information as well. So, okay. So if we go back to the poll, we have about 39% that said they have 1 to 3 controls, 39% that said they have about 3 to 5 controls, and then 21% that have all 6 controls. So
good,
decent.
Yep.
Decent
Good.
numbers.
That's the expected response. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good. So here are the questions to ask before buying or renewing. Ask your broker or insurer what controls are mandatory versus recommended. So you remember the 6, there may be others. They may supply you with a full list, that maybe looks huge. Ask them which ones are absolutely mandatory versus, either recommended or things that can be put in place in the near future. If it is, in the near future, what timeline are they giving you to get those done? Because sometimes their premium depends on that as well. Like they may readjust it if after a certain amount of you're not, compliant with that, then they might uplift your premium. Which one of those controls require the proof, and at binding versus at claim time? And that's very important because obviously if you can be better prepared at binding, then you'll have the information, and claim time just buys you enough time for you to prepare that, let's say if it'll take you a month or 2 or several months to get the controls in place and then provide the proof, then that can help selecting which cyber insurer you can put in place. Very important. Are there any exclusions for ransomware, social engineering, and any kind of funds transfer fraud? Because a lot of times you'll see this in the next slides. A lot of times they'll give you a global amount that says will cover you for this amount, but there's a sublimit somewhere in the next slide. What sublimits apply, right? What conditions trigger them? So there may be a sublimit that says, yes, I will cover you, but for social engineering or for transfer funds, we're covering you at a less figure because essentially it is triggered by an employee. So in their eyes, you need to put the right controls so your employees avoid clicking on certain things and become victims to like social engineering or transfer fraud. So
well,
look
and
at the
they've also, in the past, those were a lot big vectors, right, of attack. So
yeah, that's
they've
right. They
lost.
still are. Yeah,
Yeah, I think still are, right? So they're trying to limit their risks again.
that's right. So again, what sublimits apply and what conditions trigger them, right? Make sure that you got the right controls and the conditions are there. And then what documentation should you as a client of this cyber insurer need to keep updated on a regular basis? They will tell you which ones that you need to upkeep, which falls under the last point as well. Like what happens if your environment changes, right? What happens if you migrate from on-premise going to the cloud? What happens if you remove some servers, if you move some users? What happens if you add more servers, add more systems? Ask them, does the premium change? It's very similar to like, house insurance, home insurance, when you do renovations and then, you likely have to speak to your insurance and then say, I did these renovations. So obviously things change. Same concept for this, really. And remember, a lower premium is not automatically a better policy if the exclusions and the sublimits and the evidence requirements or the response conditions are unclear, right? You may you think it's a good deal on the cyber insurer, but then if you start to look at the exclusions and the sublimits, then you realize that, there's probably a 50% chance that they're not going to give you that claim if something were to happen. So make sure that it's clear. Clarity beats assumptions.
Always.
And now we'll add the other vector, which is AI. So yeah, cyber insurers now need to think of AI as a possible major vector in vulnerabilities, in risk. So it doesn't replace the traditional cyber risk. It makes fraud faster. So phishing more convincing and data leakage easier. Why does it do that? Because the cyber hackers are also using AI. So they're coming up with better ways and evolving on how they can get into your network. So again, a bigger risk for the cyber insurers. And not only that, but the ability for your users to possibly leak information out into the public becomes evident now if you don't have the right controls. So we talked about these in the previous webinars. You know, the hacker side would be the AI powered fraud, right? The phishing, deep fake voice, the fake invoices, the business email compromise. They all become a little bit, you know, harder to validate. They come in, you know, at lightning speed. Uh, so if you don't have the right controls in place, obviously the risk is high, the vulnerability, you might get infected. There might be an incident. That's what's going on with the AI side on the hacker side. But on the internal side, revolving around your business, well, you may have shadow AI and data leakage, which is now your users, right? So your employees now maybe pasting and sending out information, financial, confidential data out into the public with these AI tools. And that obviously is, information that hackers on the outside world can take and use to really compromise your network and possibly use some kind of social engineering or collect enough information for them to try and get into your environment. So it's important for that third block on the right where the governance is there. Now they'll ask you, what AI tools are you using? Are you controlling them? Are they approved? Are they being monitored? Have you documented this? What data is being connected between these AI tools and your systems? And is it going outside? Is it staying inside? They may ask you that, and chances are they'll probably ask you the documented process on what you've been doing to govern and to put the guardrails, as we said in the previous webinars. What guardrails do you have in place to ensure that your employees are not, again, your weakest link and sending this information out there? So AI is not the issue. We keep saying that. It's not an issue. It's fantastic. But the problem is it's the uncontrolled AI that becomes, again, a risk for the cyber insurer, for you. And the goal is to show like some responsible use, clear rules, and show the proof that you've done your exercise in terms of governance and guardrails. And yes, these are the tools I'm using. This is how I'm using them. This is how I'm monitoring them. And you have to provide proof that you have that in place. So for AI usage, ask your broker insurance, does the policy address AI-related phishing, deep fake fraud, or social engineering, right? So obviously, cyber criminals can create the fake emails, the fake invoices, fake voices, fake videos, everything, impersonation attempts, etc., right? So the question is whether your current policy would respond if one of these AI-assisted scams caused some kind of financial loss. Next question, are AI-related incidents covered under cyber crime, errors in emission, or another policy? Not every AI-related loss automatically falls under cyber insurance. So, some situations are like cyber insurance for data breach and ransomware and phishing and system compromise. Crime insurance is for fraud, for funds transfer, invoice and redirection, I believe. Errors and emissions is for professional errors, for client impact, service failure. So, don't assume that all of this is encompassed into one. It could be different insurances that you need. Third question, are there AI exclusions, sublimits, conditions, or endorsements? Again, your exclusions are things that are not included. Your sublimits, it's covered, but not at the same level as the other limits. Conditions, on the conditions side, it may mean that you must meet a specific requirement for that coverage to apply. So if they were to reimburse you for a certain item, it means that maybe you would need these 3 controls in place. So ensure that you have them in place. So there's a lot to think about with that question. Fourth one, what happens if sensitive data is entered into a public AI tool? So if an employee copies that data or information, financial records, etc., the insurer may ask whether this type of incident is covered, excluded, is treated as failure of internal controls. That's the conversation that has to be had. You need to understand, or they need to be able to tell you what's in and what's out in that contract. Does the insurer expect an AI acceptable use policy? So, or approved tool list. So obviously, if AI is involved, they will probably ask you, for some of this information. So they'll ask you what AI tools you're using, and do you have an actual document that you've published to your employees on what is acceptable in terms of AI, and then what are you using and what metrics, what systems are you using to monitor that to ensure that no employee is actually doing something on the shadow AI side and possibly leaking information out. How should third-party AI vendors or AI-enabled platforms be reviewed? So many platforms include features. Insurers may expect you to check some of these things like how the vendor uses the data, whether your data trains their model, what security controls do they have as an AI vendor, whether they meet privacy and compliance requirements. So now they're asking you to do a little bit of homework on the AI tool that you're using. So you'll have to engage a conversation with someone from that AI tool or find the right documents that could be made available so you can have that answer for them. All right. They're not going to go get that info. They're expecting you to provide that information. And last question, what documentation would be required if we had to make a claim? So ask that because, again, do they need an approved AI tool list? Do they need security logs? Do they need training records? Do they need incident reports, vendor assessments, the Microsoft 365 permissions review, or evidence that there's human review before something going to external use? So, interesting conversation to have. You need to ask that question because the last thing you want is to have an incident and then have them tell you that, well, it's AI related and it's not really covered.
Yeah.
So in preparation for all of this, what are the questions that you need to ask to your IT partner or maybe to your internal team? If you have an internal team, access, where is MFA enforced? Where, how, where is it not enforced? So which users are not? Legacy VPNs, service accounts. I mentioned that, right? A lot of times I see customers saying, well, MFA is active, but my service accounts are not because it's difficult, it doesn't work well with my systems, and I can't get it to work. There's ways to get around that and to fix that. The reason why we do that is because MFA accounts without MFA are the easiest and the most likely accounts that get infected or get compromised, and that's how hackers get in and then elevate themselves within your environment. So it's important to have MFA across the board or securing your service accounts properly. In your backups, again, when was your last test restore, right? So ask your IT partner, ask your IT team, show me the results of your tests. What's the recovery time objective? Are the backups isolated? Are they segmented? We've had this question asked before several times, actually. What does recovery time objective mean? So RTO. And there are two aspects of that. There's RTO and RPO, which is your recovery point objective. So let's say you were to have a backup of your systems and it's being done every night at 11 o'clock every night. So we are now, let's say 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And if I were to lose all my systems, so I have a cybersecurity incident right now, I lose all my systems. The last known good backup I have was yesterday at 11 o'clock. So my RPO, my recovery point objective is, 12, 14, 15, 16 hours ago, let's say. So am I okay as a business to have lost 16 hours of data? So am I okay to have lost every single transaction that was done today? That's your first question. That's your recovery point objective. So the more backups you make, the smaller your recovery point becomes, and now you can revert back maybe several hours, an hour, several hours, et cetera. And in some cases, we have customers with 24 hours, right? In some cases, we have 48. It depends on your business and how much, what's your acceptable point of data? What are you willing to lose in terms of data? And your recovery time objective, which is often, almost always overlooked, is how much time does it take to bring back that data? So it's all nice to say that, I back up my data every 4 hours, so I'm covered. Well, your recovery time is not 4 hours. Your recovery time, if you're dealing with 10, 20, 30 tera, if you're dealing with a lot of data that has to be restored and it comes from, somewhere cloud, and you have to start restoring that, well, yeah, you have, data that belonged from 4 hours ago. But if it takes you 16 hours, one day, 48 hours to restore that data, that's your recovery time objective. So can your business afford to be down 2 days of RTO? And if the answer is no, then you have to work with coming up with a backup strategy that can fix that, right? To bring that retention closer, to bring that recovery time a little tighter for your business. On the detection side, again, logs, reports, are all my endpoints being monitored? Are they being monitored only during the day, business hours? Are they being monitored after hours as well? Who's monitoring them? Are there logs? Are there alerts? Are there tickets being opened? What's the isolation process when something happens? Who's taking over, and what are we doing to contain that? Again, on paper. Documentation, provide. Can you have your partner or internal IT team produce evidence for controls that are listed in these applications? What's the response, right? When something were to happen, well, who's calling legal? Who's calling the insurance broker? Who's calling your incident response vendor? The bank, your leadership, right? In the event of a fire, of an incident, obviously the last thing you want to do is figure out who you have to call. You have to have that documented somewhere. And then your change control, right? Every time there is a change, when you're adding new systems or new servers or changing your firewall, yeah, you need to, are we doing the necessary changes in the documentation to make sure that everything's up to par, so that when I have that conversation with the cyber insurer, here's my updated documentation. This is what we did with the changes. But again, it should reflect your real environment, not the ideal one. It would be nice to have the ideal one, but you have to work to that, right? So you gotta be honest and give them what you currently have. Now watch for coverage gaps. This is what we've seen that is common. I spoke about this earlier. Social engineering sublimits. Okay, fraudulent transfer, invoice redirection. They may have lower caps than your main policy limit. If you look at the example, a business, let's say, for example, would lose 400,000 in a wire fraud incident, but the policy only has a $100,000 cap of social engineering sublimit, and it also requires a callback verification that was not followed. So they may not even pay you the $100,000 because they're requiring you to have some kind of callback verification. What does that mean? Well, if you have someone who's in charge of doing transfers, money transfers, is there someone else or another entity that is validating, doing the verification to make sure that this is right? Is it only one person sending this out and nobody else is validating their work? A lot of sublimits, a lot of cyber insurance now are requesting in writing, what is your process for when you're doing transfers, to ensure that you're actually validating. If it's one person only that's doing it, then that dependency is not good. You have to have several people validating it, or at least two people anyways. And then there's some ransomware conditions, like it depends on the specific controls that you have, right? So again, they may cover you, but up to a certain limit, because you don't have these three controls put in place. So the gauge goes up and down on the premiums depending on the conditions that you have in place. So the issue is not, are we covered? It's what are we covered for, right? Covered for what, up to what amount, and under what conditions? In anticipation, or in the hopes of being proactive, if you don't have cyber insurance, this is what you need to do: build an evidence packet. If you're looking to renew, build an evidence packet, because chance you're going to need all of this in your next one. You may not have been asked this proof with your existing cyber insurer. Chances are they'll come back on renewal and they'll ask for the proof, right? So the final questionnaire with all the assumptions, the policy answers, your proof of all your controls, the 6 controls that we saw, the most common ones at least anyways, that'll get you through 80 to 90% of the cyber insurers. So you got to show that proof, get the evidence ready, proof that you've done your tests, your backups, your test restore, your results, your recovery targets. Do you have an IR readiness plan in place? Are there roles? Are there people? Have we run the tabletop notes, the tabletop exercise that Maria was saying? Have you run this test? Training records, right? Are you phishing your employees with what tool? Show me I've seen a couple of those. Show me results of your phishing campaigns. So they want to know the percentage of clickers, because that's a risk for them, right? If it's too high, the premium goes up, or they don't accept you. So show me the simulations, show me the results. I want to see the reports. And then there's things like accepted gaps and deadlines. Look at the controls that you don't have in place and speak to your IT team, speak to your MSP, and see like how what is it going to take to get these things in place. What's the timeline? At least you have something clear. When you have that discussion with your cyber insurer, you'll say, yes, I'm putting this in place. I don't have it now. I'm putting it in place. It's going to be there in 3 months. I believe we have a poll here on this one. Yes. How many of you here have an evidence package built, ready?
It's an interesting question. No one's answering, apparently.
Uh-oh. Did they fall off the chair?
Oh, no, I see. I'm sorry. I didn't
Okay.
scroll far enough. Yeah. Darn it. Getting the responses in, but so far we have 95% who don't have an evidence packet and 4% that do. For the 95%, don't feel bad. This is relatively new. So it's and this is kind of why we're talking about it, because we're starting to see that more and more. So we want to make sure you guys are ready for what's coming, right?
Yeah, I fully agree and fully on board with the 95%. That's okay, because we get asked by our customers when it's time for them to do cyber insurance. They're like calling us in panic. I need this, I need that, I need this. Sure. So we do the exercise for them, right? But it's when it's time to sign. And so, yeah, it's always good to have something ready for so that you don't have to act in fire mode.
You have a really good question from Mark Anthony that Jess also wants to know. If our IT provider handles all those things, does it mean we have a packet ready?
Correct. Yes, we do this on a regular basis. I get copied on. I'm a VCIO on some of my accounts. I have my colleagues a VCIO on some accounts, and we get asked this all the time. It's a direct call that comes into our NOC and service desk. I'm getting audited, or I'm renewing my cyber insurance. Here's the sheet that they want. They need proof for this. No problem. But we have a document management on our side, so we have a team that works 24/7. And we do all the snapshots, and here's your proof. We're using this for monitoring. This is your EDR solution. These are the results. These are the results. Here's your backup. This is the solution we're using. Here are the test results. It's all there. So if you want to be prepared for your renewal, you can ask the question now. We'll get it done for you.
Yeah. Definitely, all of that to say you should definitely ask your IT provider so that you can be ready when they ask the question, because they have all the information. It's a question of, do they have it all documented and screenshots and all of that are specific to your environment, right?
Yeah, I mean, we don't actively do it for all our customers because it's a lot of work if we were to do it for all our customers. So we do it on demand. But yeah, I mean, if it's the Mark Anthony I know, call me. I'll get it started for you.
We'll see. If you get a call, then you'll know.
All right. So the readiness roadmap. First thing,
it must
collect
be
the
because
policy.
he says thanks, Sergio. So it must be
Yeah,
the one that you know.
Yes, there you go. It's good. Proactive. It's cool. So map, collect the policy questions, map each answers to real controls. So, Mark Anthony, we can do that exercise. We'll validate to make sure that everything is okay with MFA, backups, EDR, patching, all of that stuff. We'll document it and we'll send it over to you. We'll give you the results of the test restores and, any kind of exercise we've done. And then move on to provide you with all of that, which becomes the document, right? The evidence packet that you can use with your cyber insurance. Say, here, I deal with microage. This is what they have. Makes it a lot easier for comparing cyber insurers as well. You can say, look, you give this to all of them, and then you can compare the right apples with apples and not oranges. So, assign an owner and a date to every gap, and don't say we'll fix it later. That's not a plan. So in the cases where our customers are being managed, obviously there's the MFA backups, EDR patching, remote access, admin access. That is all like minimum requirements for us, right? So it's pretty straightforward for us to provide you with all of this information. And your key takeaways today: insurance is not a substitute for cybersecurity controls. So erase the title called, finding the right cyber insurer, and just call it, putting the right cybersecurity controls. This is best practice. You should have these in place. Your IT provider should be putting these things in place. You should be investing in these cybersecurity controls. It is the bare minimum right now. And again, it should match the real environment, excluding exceptions. The proof is very important. So a lot of insurers will not insure you or even look at you if you don't have any of that proof available. So your tests, your logs, your snapshots of all the tools that are being used, etc. Very important, ask about the sublimits, what's included, what's excluded, what conditions, what claim obligations I have if I were to have a cyber incident, what do I need to make sure to have in place? And again, prepare that before the renewal, right? Don't do this during a cyber incident. It's the last thing on your mind when there's a cyber incident. When the fire breaks loose, it's not the time to figure out how many fire hydrants are outside and how many
Sprinklers.
how many sprinklers and fire extinguishers you should put on the next incident. You should do that now. Yeah. So the final reminder, cyber insurance decisions should always be, I have to change my voice this to be monotone, no? Should always be reviewed
You have
with
to
your
you have to go
insurance
faster,
broker.
like the drug companies.
Oh yes, that's right. It has to scroll.
Yeah.
It should always be reviewed with your insurance broker, legal advisor, internal leadership team. This presentation is intended to help you understand common cybersecurity expectations and prepare stronger questions. It does not replace professional insurance, legal, financial, or regulatory advice. Our focus as MicroAge is the cybersecurity readiness, giving you the evidence and a stronger risk management, obviously, so that in turn will help you have the right tools and ask the right questions for your cyber insurer. I pass it over to you, Maria.
Thank you, Sergio. So while Patrick, we have Patrick works for us. He's in the background. We don't see him, but he's the guy who makes this all run. And he just put in the link to the ebook that we were talking about earlier. So we encourage you to download the ebook and to reach out to your local MicroAge with any questions. We will be taking a little bit of a summer break for the summer months. We will return on September 10th with the next webinar where we will feature an interactive live cyber incident response simulation. So we're talking about tabletop exercises. This is going to be a simulation of one. So we'd love to see you there. Last year we did this webinar and there was quite eye-opening for a lot of the participants. So look for the invites in your inbox or on our social media, and we'll hope to see you on September 10th for our next webinar. I don't see any other questions, or if there are any other questions, please, don't hesitate to ask. We'd be more than happy to answer them. And so if not, Sergio, thank you very much for the great presentation, and I wish you a great summer. And
thank you. You too.
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks everyone for spending the last almost hour with us, not quite, but almost. And we wish you all an excellent summer. And thank you very much for your comments. And just a reminder, please, if you can, answer the survey and give us your thoughts, give us what you'd like to see in the future. Like I said, we kind of want to base our topics and what we talk about in our webinars with topics that are pertinent to you. So yeah, we'd really appreciate your feedback. And thank you for all the nice comments in the chat. We really appreciate it. We're happy. Like I said, this one, again, was a topic that you guys suggested to us. And, we were able to hopefully deliver something that was pertinent to you. Let me see. I think we do have a couple of questions that came in. So, Peter, does MicroAge provides reports for EDR subscriptions? Peter, I would ask that question. I'm guessing that you're working with one of our MicroAges. Speak to your local MicroAge because they probably do. They're the ones who are going to be able to give you that information if you have that in place. Like with some clients.
we don't actively send reports or activity reports to our customers because they will panic. Their reports are extensive. There's a lot of things that happen on a device on a regular basis. The EDR does a fantastic job of taking care of it, but they're all logged in. And if we were to send you these reports, you'd all be in panic mode because you'd think something's going on. But that's the reality of IT right now. So we don't actively send them to our customers. We provide them, in the case of cyber insurance, or if something were to happen, we have them available. But yeah, we don't. We don't want you to worry for no reason. We're on it.
Yeah,
So,
there's
but they have access for it, so they can send you the reports.
like a lot of alerts, right? There's also, alerts that are not really, pertinent. And so you have to kind of, they work to sift through all
Yeah,
of that before they give you the actual information
yeah,
that you need to know, or call you and say, hey, there is an issue. We've
yeah,
isolated it. This is what we're doing. And the logs are available,
yeah,
for when you need them, right?
yeah.
Okay, hopefully that answers your question for your questions for now. Is there anyone else who has any questions or anything they want to add? Is it possible to get a copy of the recording? Yes.
Hmm?
Yes. So hopefully, if everything goes right, we will have the recording shortly, and we'll be able to send it out probably within the next 24 hours or so. As quickly as we can anyway. I guess that's it. So again, have a great summer, everybody, and thank you very much for spending some time with us today. And hopefully, like I said, we provided some pertinent information for you. Have a great day.
Thank you.